Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jata Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitang Tang Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Purijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitangscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangolam Hayate Girim Yat Kripatamahang Vande Sri Gurun Dinatarinam Adadanasinam Dantaridam Jache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padamboja Dulisham Janma Janmani Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hemab Divyachcha Visundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema-rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Nindantam Pulakot Korena Bikasam Nipa Prasanachtrivim Prodrikritva Bhujadvayam Hari Hari Itu Chaivadantam Muhu Nrityantam Drutam Asru Nirjara Chai Sinchantam Urvitalam Gayantam Nija Parasadaya Parivritam Sri Gaura Chandram Nama. So we're speaking about the meeting of the reunion, and Radha Krishna and Braja Gopis, Krishna coming from Dwaraka, queens of Dwaraka and the entourage, and Radharani and Braja Gopis unable to conceal their disappointment not to find Shama Sundar Krishna Gopave in the dress of the Gopa, cowherd boy, Priya Saki, the Venam Kvanantamaravinda Dalayata, Krishna with his flute. And some back and forth between them. We're told, Balaram, when they all meet, because first Nanda Yashoda, the gopis always, in a very humble, almost polite way, they allow themselves to be considered last. Like when they say to Krishna, really they want to express their hearts, but the first thing they'll say to him is like, don't you miss Vrindavan? And your cows, your beloved cows, and the pasture, the Goshta, and the Jamuna, and your beloved parents, Nanda and Yashoda, and your cowherd boyfriend, Subal, Sridham, Sudam. Don't you miss them? They miss you so much. Yeah. They don't say themselves until the very end, but they mention everyone and everyone else before them. It's very beautiful that way. The devotees are always that way. Like girls, backward, in the background, not wanting to come to the fore. No, non-assertive, pratishta. Not interested in pratishta. Self-assertion, but recognizing the devotion in others, and that Krishna appreciates that, and celebrating that, the devotion of others. And sometimes humorous profundity, when from the mouth of Chandravali, who's supposed to be Radharani's main competitor. Remember, just for the sake of ontological accuracy, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabirya Eva Nija Rupataya Kalavi Goloka Eva Nivisatya Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. As Krishna has so many expansions, everything's coming from him, all the Shakti side, Radharani, all coming from her. So we know the best brands, they market their own competition. You find out they're number one, and then you find out there's this product that's number two, and then you find out they own that also. So actually everything is hers, coming. But still, her competition, Chandravali. So Rupa Goswami, Vishalaj Chadralena Purna, Murli, what is it? His, from the mouth of Chandravali, she is finding fault with the flute of Krishna. So see how the opposition, one side we're saying, oh, the flute, we hear in the bamboo by the riverside is saying, look, our son, the flute, how highly positioned he is. He made something of his life. He's successful. The parents like to see the child be successful. The flute, that's our son up there in Krishna's hands. So they're praising, but Chandravali, it's indirect praise through ninda or fault finding. And she's saying, where did this flute come from? What is this flute doing? Right? We are the gopis. We are entitled to the nectar, the Krishna Adharamritam, the nectar from the lips of Krishna. And this flute is positioned himself there. So all the nectar from the lips of Krishna is going into the flute. And the flute is not a girl. She knows that the flute is a male. What is this? So the flute is intervening, capturing what was necessary for us. And one of the things he mentions that, the Sanskrit word whole can also mean fault. And she's saying, the flute is full of faults. Look at all those faults. So full of faults, not a Brajagopi, and all of it, and a dry piece of wood. This makes no sense. A dry piece of bamboo should be the receptacle of all the nectar from the lips of Krishna. This is insane. We can't accept this. So, indirectly, she's praising the flute. That's why Rupa Goswami has this sloka to show that how dear is the flute to Krishna. Priya Saki and Brahma Sangita. Yata Ganam Natyagamanam Bangshi Priya Saki. And Krishna, in that place where all movement is dance and all speech is song. What does Guru say? When sound is infused with beauty and ultimate beauty, that is song, and movement infused with beauty, dance, and that is the nature of Goloka Vrindavan. And it's like the Bollywood movie, in a sense. Like, why do those movies like that? Where like, the people are going, then suddenly everybody's singing and dancing, and then they stop, and then they do something, and then they're singing and dancing again, It's like, they got it from Krishna-lila. That's why you can't extract it from India. It's in the DNA. It's Krishna-lila. That's what Krishna-lila, that's Gaur-lila. Lots of singing and dancing. Many things happen, dramatic stuff, and then what is the consequence? Singing and dancing. And then some feasting. Lots of feasting, singing, dancing. Vasu Goswami is like, what kind of spiritual path is this? Like singing, dancing, and feasting. That's the way toward the ultimate. That's the path to the ultimate reality. And ironically, it is. And it's in the ultimate reality. It's not just the way to get there. It's what happens after you get there. Right? It's the very nature of that plane. So it's not a minor thing, as we might think in a visual sense, like, all right, there's Krishna. So you put him in different clothes, absent, still more or less Krishna. What's the problem? For Radharani and the Braja Gopis, it's a big problem. Given again, Rupa Goswami, what is it? Sarvad Bhuta Chamatkaram Lila Kalola Gardi Bainam, what is it? Priya, Premna, Priya Dikyam, Lila Bharati. Anyway, he's saying, what are the four things that distinguish Krishna? It's in Krishna and Vishnu. So they're saying, 4, all right, 60, 64. But it's not like that. These 4 things, it's not just a simple math. What is within these 4? When it says, Lila Madhurya. So the generous way and safe way is to say like, his sweet pastimes. But that's not actually what it means. I mean, it does in a general sense, but it means is madhurya-rasa. Those pastimes are not in Vishnu. Right? Narayan, Lakshmi, Narayana, there's no such pastimes there. Madhurya-rasa pastimes, exclusive. This is Krishna territory. Right? And parakya, svakya, parakya. Married, conjugal, and then unmarried, paramour, parakya bhav. So it's not a minor thing. It's everything. Janmadyasya yataha. Janma adi rasa. Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur saying that beginning of the Bhagavatam, which is also an aphorism in the Vedanta Sutra. Remember, Nigama kalpatrur galitam palam shukamokadam ritrudravisamratam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavuka. That the kalpataru, the desire tree of Veda, okay, this Bhagavatam is the fruit that tree produces. Okay. So I've said, like a mango tree. What is a mango tree without mangoes? Okay. Looks like many trees. I mean, we could say from one point of view, well, but it has that capacity. Yeah, so revered. But from another point of view, we can say the whole point of the mango tree is to produce mangoes. That's why there's a mango tree. So he's telling us the whole point, Vedic kalpataru, is to produce this fruit. It's not, although you can get whatever you want when you go there. From the mundane to the spiritual, everything in between, Veda has a program for that. But that is not its purpose. The purpose of that tree is to produce this fruit. And what is the fruit? It is, and it's full of this liquid substance. What is it? Madhurya-rasa. Right? Eros, the erotic principle in unalloyed devotion, as given by Saraswati Thakur. That inconceivable of inconceivable things, what's driving the world, the principle of Eros, the driving principle of existence, must have its parallel in the original. And the Bhagavatam is going to present that. Because Narada told Vyasa, if you don't, and thus far you have not, in any clear way, then this is so, how do you say, where you can't take it away from. It is so, what is the word when you can't take something away from something? You're what? Inseparable. Yes, inseparable from our existence. It's to not exist. Right? It is that intrinsic to our existence. Right? So he's saying, and if you don't clearly indicate that this prospect is there in the upper world, like we said, Madan Mohan, right? It indicates this prospect, this possibility, who can Everyone in the world is under the influence of Madan Cupid. Krishna, Madan Mohan, is so charming and can bewilder Cupid, but that's good news for us because it's telling us that the beauty of Krishna conception can cut the stranglehold that lust has upon the heart and free the soul for its natural flow of love. Raga Bhakti, Krishna Prem. Prabhupada says early in his Gita purport, our natural love of God, Krishna Prem, is being pervertedly manifested as lust for matter. Right? So, this Bhagavatam has come to present that. So Narada telling Vyas that people will conclude the only place, this thing that is intrinsic, inseparable from their very existence, the only plane of expression is this world. Right? If you do not clearly indicate that prospect, that possibility with the absolute. So, and that means Krishna conception, which comes from Srimati Radharani. Right? Guru Maharaj said, faith is the halo of Radharani. Bhargo Bhai Vrishabhanu Jatma Vibhabai Karadana Sripuram. Right? So, Yadamiyam Mahima Sri Bhagavatyam Katayam Pratibhatam Pratam Anubhutam Apya Labdavideya Shyamalila Avalambam madhurya-rasa Sri Radha Padapadmam Prapadye Tadakila Rasa Murti Shyamalila. The Shyamalila, the madhurya-rasa pastimes are wholly, solely dependent upon her. We hear in Charitamrita, there's Radharani. One of her extensions are the Lakshmis of Vaikuntha. And their parallel are the Devis of this world, their perverted reflection. But so the Lakshmis of Vaikuntha, the queens of Dwaraka, and the gopis of Vrindavan. That's who she's responsible for. Right? So the whole madhurya-rasa pastimes are dependent upon her. That means everything. It's not just, compartmentalize this particular aspect. Everything like Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhura, this sort of trajectory. But actually, it's Madhura is the Adi rasa, Mukhya rasa, the principal rasa from which everything is coming. All other rasas are, and Guru Maharaj's word, satellites or clients of Madhura rasa. So it's not ancillary, secondary, peripheral, but central to everything. Okay? And as Swayam Bhagavan is at the right hand of Radharani, that is Krishna. Right? Shama Sundar Krishna. Playing his flute. Right? Dressed in his Gopavesh. So when after 100 years of separation they find him in Kurukshetra in the dress of a king, in the midst of a mob, and horses, chariots, all kinds of, and no flute to be found anywhere. They cannot conceal their disappointment, which shows what is their standard. Like sometimes I would think in the past, sometimes devotees would discuss some other, like religion or something. And I'm saying, have you heard about Krishna consciousness? The Braja Gopis, they have no interest in Narayana Vaikuntha. So this kind of discussion can't even take place. If they have, we're told when Krishna played a joke on them and pushed out two more arms, become four arm Narayana, because they think they're searching, they're always searching for Krishna. See him in a kunja, they run to him, and he pushes out two more arms, they think it's four arm Narayana, and says, Ragodaya Kunchati. In the words of Rupa Goswami, their rag means like crushed, crippled. Their hearts are crushed to find Narayan of Vaikuntha. And we think, like, if we look at a painting from some bit, we go like, well, get rid of the two arms, and then it kind of looks like Krishna. Not to them. Right? Not to them. The Krishna's paraphernalia is inseparable from him. So that Krishna who's awakens the deepest sort of Krishna prem from their hearts, plays the flute, wears the peacock feather, and is dressed as a cowherd boy, and is on the banks of the Jamuna underneath the moon light, and with the breezes, the Dira Samira, and the peacock, everything. That's Krishna conception, according to the Braja Gopis. Right? So, it's not like you can make an outline of Krishna and lift him and put him in some other environment. It's not the same. So, we're told, Balaram absents himself to see like, all right, you all need to spend some time, Balaram's always supremely clever. Because he knows whenever he's around, that brings out the brotherly side of Krishna. So he knows, all right, he has others to meet and greet. And so finally, and the Braja Gopi, they can't believe it after 100 years, they get to see, they're like, their eyes they're in this ecstatic trance, meditating on Krishna, although he's there. So, and it's very deep. So to bring them out of it, Krishna comes and starts like hugging them, squeezing so tight that they open their eyes and say, oh. That's how deeply they're meditating on Krishna, that Dwaraka Krishna is in front of them. They're like, he has to like, and then they see him, oh. Not exactly like what I was meditating on. And Krishna has to go into apology mode, right, to explain what's going on here. So, but Radharani first, we're told, and this is all at Rath Yatra, sung by Mahaprabhu before Jagannath. Ahushchite nalina nava padarabindam yogeshware hridivichantam agada bodhai sangsara kupa patito taranava lambam geham jashamapi manus suryat sadhana. The Braja Gopi is saying, before you sent Uddhava telling us we should learn how yoga, learn how to meditate, practice gyan, these things people do normally become liberated from bodily consciousness. You're saying, we don't have any body consciousness. We're the Braja Gopis. That is absurd to suggest to us that we should adopt these practices that people do to overcome their body conception. We have none. We only know you and our relationship with you. And that is the basis of all of our movements, everything that we do. And Krishna is telling them, he's saying, at first, his apology, not so good. And he's saying things like, it's by the will of providence that people come together from some time and then they're brought apart. They're like, what? You mean like God arranges it? Yeah. You're God. Everybody knows that. What are you saying? That's not an excuse. We don't accept that. Because he's trying to tell them, we're all, God is doing these things and what can we do? He said, but you're God. You can do something about it. So unacceptable. Anyway, the idea about Gyan and yoga, they just find really insulting. So, in Guru Maharaj's words, Radharani is saying, you know what we want from you? We want a family life with you. We're sangsara kupata, we're just fallen householders. Not jnanis, yogis, liberationists, mukti, we're in the well of household life, you know the story. And we want you, your lotus feet need to come back. You need to come back with us. They're trying to bring Krishna back. And Krishna, he's trying to explain what has happened. Saying, first of all, Vrindavanam parichaja parikam nigachate. Krishna never takes a step out of Vrindavan, actually. They're saying, but wait, how are they meeting here in Kurukshetra? And he's saying, it's actually through my Vishnu expansions. You can read about in Lagu Bhagavatamrita and Rupa Goswami. It's complicated. But I'm actually in Vrindavan with you all. I can't ever leave you. I'm always with you, in your hearts there. But this whole Yogamaya play that I've gone to Dwaraka, it's not really me. It's an expansion. It's Dwaraka Krishna, right? Who is not Vrindavan Krishna. Right? They're not the same. They don't have the same level of charm, appeal, attractiveness, sweetness. Even Dwaraka Krishna, seeing a picture of Vrindavan Krishna, he's saying, oh, so charming, so beautiful. Who is this person who, now I feel like I've become Radhika in response to the beauty of this person. Who is it? So, what Krishna reveals, what they wanted to hear all along, Mayi Bhakti Bhutanam Amritatvaya Kalpate Dishya Marashin Matsneho Bhavatinam Marapana. He's saying, you're right about those yogis and karmis and jnanis and everybody. If they can connect with me, they consider they've hit the lottery. They've got everything. Because the Brajagopis is saying, like the yogis, they meditate with your lotus feet on their heart. We take those same lotus feet a little bit above our heart. That's where we hold your lotus feet. They hold them in their heart, we hold them, it's different. This kind of love we have for you. So he's saying those karmis, jnanis, yogis, they all are searching for me to get free from this heart disease, material existence. As we heard, and when Mahaprabhu asked from Raghupati Upadhyay, he said, Shrutim apare smritim apar itare varantamanye, what is it? Baba Bita, Bhajantu Baba Bita, Ahangiha Nandam Bande Yashalande Param Brahma. Saying the Shruti, the Vedas, the Smriti, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, they're all trying to bring people in connection with the Param Brahma to save them from the consequences of material existence and inescapable karmic circumstances generated by us. He's saying, but that Param Brahma that everyone seeks, he's crawling in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. So I'm thinking, like, what did he do? Forget all this other stuff. He's got what you want, he's got crawling in his courtyard. And as if anyone could be more fortunate, so, Nandakim Akarod Brahmam Shreya Eva Mahodayam Mahodayam Yashodava Mahabhaga, even more fortunate than Nanda Maharaj. Yashodava Mahabhaga Papo Yasya Stanam Hari. Krishna crawls in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, and then he crawls onto the lap of Yashoda, and he's sucking her breast milk. So Raghupati Upadhyay saying, this is where we should be focused. So in a leap, we see in this verse, he's leapt from the Shruti, the Smritis, and all of that, into vatsalya-rasa. Not only into the domain of rasa, into vatsalya-rasa. And very perfectly, tactfully, one rung below, vatsalya-rasa. That's where he takes us. And that is why Mahaprabhu says, anything more? That you've caught, you've got me here. Is there anything more you can say? And he said, well, there is, but nobody would believe it. No one can. It's unbelievable. There's more. And it's true. It's the absolute truth, but unbelievable. And is there anyone who's, these achintya, inconceivable, unbelievable things, who's qualified to hear them? And that's when he says that verse that Gurudev quoted at the opening of the Chandrodaya Mandir in Mayapur, ISKCON World Headquarters. He said, Samprati Katayitamishe, Kamprati Katayitamishe, Samprati Patitamayatu, Gopa Tanuti, Gopa Taya, Gopa Viduti Tanaya Kunde, Gopa Viduti Vidam Brahma. That Param Brahma crawled on the lap of Yashoda, when he gets older, as Kishore, the teenager, he's hunting the gopis in the kunja of Vrindavan. That's what he's doing. That's what he said. It's will anybody believe this? And is there anyone qualified to hear these things, whose anarthas will not, upon hearing it, fill them full of misconceptions? Shraddhanvato anusranayadata varnayedya. So Krishna responds to Radharani and Brajagopi saying, so if they get some connection with me, that they feel that is their ultimate good fortune, saying, but what about my position? That's good, and it's true, it's good for everyone. Karmis, Gyanis, Yogi, everyone, Bhakta, to be connected with it, it's not untrue, it's true. But what about me? He's saying, I consider it my good fortune. As they consider me their good fortune, I consider it my good fortune that I am the object of love and that you're unalloyed, pure, incomparably pure, wonderful, loving hearts. Right? That's what Krishna's answer is. And when Radharani heard that, then she's telling, all right, we knew it all along. He's reconfirmed that. We can go back. And they're told, before you go back, the queens of Dwaraka are saying, we've heard about this Rasa-lila. Is it possible? And Radharani, yes, Brajago, yeah, they all get together. They perform a Rasa-lila. Everyone is astonished. And Guru Maharaj said, Radharani turns and tells them, that's nothing. You should see the original. Which can only take place in Vrindavan. So, when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur accompanied Bhakti Vinod Thakur on their Dham parikrama, Saraswati Thakur would tell his disciples, Bhakti Vinod Thakur revealed to him, he said, these enigmatic words. He said, we all know Vrindavan is for the shallow, hollow thinkers. A man of real bhajan will prefer Kurukshetra. So when Guru Maharaj was telling this, he said, our Guru Maharaj's statements were mostly revolutionary. So this is the Krishna movement. Krishna is the center of everything. Vrindavan is the land of Krishna and all that. And now he's saying, Vrindavan, that's for shallow, hollow thinkers. I thought it's for the highest section of liberated souls. He just said all movement there is dance, all song is speech. The insects are liberated personality. The bees are singing Krishna Katha. The soil, Vaikuntir Pritivyadi Sakala Chinmoy, the soil is super Krishna conscious. So, and you're saying Vrindavan for shallow, hollow thing. What he means, and we should understand this contextually, what is Vrindavan? No, that is the land of union. There's Sambhog and Vipralambha. So Vrindavan, that is the land of union, right? Madhurya, like we're told, madhurya-rasa and madhurya pastimes, right? So, Kurukshetra is the zenith point of separation. So, it is the opinion of the Rupa Goswami's line coming from Mahaprabhu that separation draws superior prem from the heart of the devotee. Vipralambha, Krishna Viraha. So, Bahe Visajalahoy, Bitare Anandamoy, Krishna Premier Adbhuta Charit. And Rupa Goswami, Gurudeva is saying, what is Mahaprabhu's tasting matter? By that he means separation. As Krishna, as we say, Govinda, Govindam Adi Purusham Tambaham Bhajami. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Right? So that means in the pastimes of union, about enjoying, Krishna, Lakshmi Sahasrashatra Brahma Sevyamanam. Gurudev once said, one Lakshmi for one Narayan and Vaikuntha, Goloka, Lakshmi Sahasrashatra. Hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, even trillions of gopis for one Krishna. So what is his enjoying capacity, his inconceivable magnitude? So he knows everything about enjoyment. Then why did he come as Mahaprabhu? Gurudev, what is his tasting matter? Pida bir navakala kuta katita garvasya nirvashano. Rupa Goswami is saying, this peculiar nectarine juice that is experienced when in separation, when it's like one is simultaneously experiencing the pain of having been bit by a cobra. So you're poisoned by cobra venom, your body is hemorrhaging, and you're being bathed in a shower of nectar at the same time. That's Rupa Goswami's sloka, trying to give us some insight what this is like. Sanatana Goswami Prabhu says at the conclusion of Brihad Bhagavatamritam, only true rasik, that we said muhuraho, rasikava, only true ones understand the superiority of separation above the pastimes of union. And those who understand it in the inverse cannot claim that position. So, when Krishna, we told Radha Madai Hriday Tatyaja Braja Sundari, Radharani left Rasa-lila, and Krishna run searching for her. And she says, after some time, I'm exhausted from all the singing and dancing. If we were to go any further, you have to carry me. Krishna's carrying her, and her eyes closed. He's saying, is there any, and he sets her down, anyone more fortunate than me? She opens her eyes, and Krishna has vanished. When one of Saraswati Thakur's disciples brought this to his attention for explanation, he became enraged. He said, there's no devotion there, why are you talking about this? So they stopped talking about it and moved on to something else. Because apparently, Radharani not being treated properly, and Saraswati Thakur, Varshabhanavi Devi Dayita, he can't tolerate that. But Guru Maharaj found in Bhaktivinoda Thakur that Krishna is so astonished by witnessing the Krishna Prem of Srimati Radharani that he hides himself in a kunja, and he's wondering, if this is what she's like when we're together, what happens to her in separation? So hidden in a kunja, he's watching, and what he observes astonishes him to the extreme, and Kutuki awakens the curiosity within him to experience her position. So he descends as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his pastimes are predominantly cultivating Krishna viraha, separation from Krishna. So, and the principle extracted by Srila Guru Maharaj in a sutra-like explanation, he says that service, according to the intensity of its necessity, draws remuneration. That's the principle to be understood. Service, according to the intensity of its necessity, draws remuneration. And he'll say, like, here's a glass of water, right? It has no apparent value, very little. He said, on a battlefield, a glass of water is of immense value. So according to the intensity of its necessity, it draws remuneration. So for those who are cursing the Creator for making eyes that blink, a nanosecond blink for being separated from seeing the beauty of Krishna, they're saying he should have made unblinking eyes. One place Radharani says, like fish, their eyes, they're just always open. It should have been like that. And then we always see Krishna, no blinking. Right? So, 100 years separation. So he's saying, it's reached its zenith point. At that time, Srimati Radharani is of the greatest necessity of service from her serving group. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, being the expert that he is, has identified, so this is the place you want to be. You want to render service at that time, because it will draw the greatest remuneration. Right? And so what we can say, and the line of Srila Guru I was hearing from, is that out of gratitude to her friends and assistants and their assistants, the serving group, that what is generally taken to be beyond the constitutional capacity of a jiva soul to experience, because bhav and prem, like, prem, bhav, prem, rag, man, sneho, pranay, rag, anurag, bhav, mahabhav. So the highest, generally speaking, the type of prem that the jivas could experience would be bhav, the bhav of prem. Right? And here, Guru Maharaj said that Radharani, she's so filled with gratitude to those assisting her at this time of the greatest necessity, that she has a plate of mahabhav, and she's saying, here, taste what we're tasting. And Srila Guru Maharaj is like, raso vajram raso pyasya param drishvani vartate. He's saying, once you have a taste of that divine substance, this is what's descending in the Rupa Nuga line. Once you have a taste of this divine substance, saying, what to speak of all other tastes? All other rasas become tasteless in comparison to that. That's why they're always promoting her, because this is her level of extraction, what she's able to extract. Right? The supreme extractor, Mahabhav Swarupini Radha Thakurani, Mahabhav Chintamani Radha Thakurani. So Kurukshetra, it's not peripheral, it's not anecdotal, it's not incidental, it's central to the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. That we have to understand. Right? So that's the separate, and we see these two, if we carefully study the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, we'll find these 2 points are, again, what is his tasting matter? So you see, 18 to 24 years celebrating this Rath Yatra, this pastime, year after year, all the devotees, 200 Maha Bhagavatas under the care of Shivananda Sen, they're brought every year. This is the pastime. Right? There's nothing else comparable to that. There may be one mention of him celebrating Janmashtami and some very minor reference or other thing. This is it. This is the central pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his devotees every year after year after year. It's the separation zenith point. All of the sentiments expressed by Srimati Radharani in Kurukshetra, Puri is taken to be Dwaraka, and this pastime, Kurukshetra. So, as they want to take Krishna back to Vrindavan, they're pulling Jagannath in the chariot. Right. So, and the other one being, in the last 12 years, behind closed doors 24 hours a day in the Gambhira. Right. And what is that? Uddhava Darshan. What does Uddhava Darshan mean? What Radharani was referring to earlier, when Krishna sent Uddhava with a message to assuage the separation in the heart of the Braja Gopis. And Radharani in her divine madness, that chapter called Brahma Gita in the Bhagavatam, 10 different types of prajalpa, or divine mad talks. What is Mahaprabhu says? Pralapita Bhakya, mad talks behind closed doors with Srup Damodar and Ramananda. So these 2 points are separation zenith points, and that's the focal point of his pastimes, particularly the last 12 years of his manifest pastimes. And when we say Jagannath as Dwaraka Krishna, but it doesn't look like Krishna of Dwaraka, right? How did he become like that? So remember, Radharani and Braja Gopis, they went like, did you forget us? Do you remember us? Sometimes think about it. You're now with all these sophisticated queens and we're just gopis, village, cowgirls, and how can we compete with these sophisticated Dwaraka queens? So they're wondering, and we heard Balaram's mother, Rohini, she has a part to play in Vrindavan and also in Dwaraka. So the queens, they're interested to hear from her about Vrindavan pastimes, because they talk amongst themselves, the principal queens of Dwaraka, Rukmini, Satyabhama, Lakshmana, Mitravinda. And so one will say things like, sometimes in his sleep, he's calling out the names of different cows, from Vrindavan, and someone said, not just cows, like sometimes he's calling out the names of these gopis. And then another queen will say, what do you mean in his sleep? Sometimes he's just daydreaming, like he's not really here, he's just looking off and, what's going on? He's absent-minded. He's not really here. Which Krishna's saying, I told you, I'm not really, I'm always with you. So they approach Rohini, and she's telling them about, his village life and his pastimes there. We are in Brihad Bhagavatamritam, that Kamsa's mother, she was given shelter there too. And she's always saying, by the script of Yogamaya and stuff, like saying horrible things to disturb everybody. She says things like, because they're about whether he should go back to Vrindavan or not. She said, are you kidding? She said, all those years of cow herding there, and they didn't even give him a pair of shoes. Not even a pair of shoes. And, you could add it all up, like what's cow herding going for in the marketplace right now? Add all that up, send them something. That's the kind of things that she says. to like get people worked up. But anyway, those queens, they're hearing from Rohini, and we're told, and it's also in Brihad Bhagavatamritam, on the particular day when Krishna can't get out of bed. And what we're told is, he's overhearing Rohini talking about Vrindavan, Radharani Brajagopis Vrindavan. And it's awakened this, current of separation in him that is so strong and overwhelming that his limbs enter into his body, his arms and his feet, and his head goes like that. His eyes become very big. And so when we say Jagannath is Dwaraka Krishna, that's what Dwaraka Krishna looks like when he's feeling intense separation, Hare Krishna, from Vrindavan. Right. There are many stories that you can hear how Jagannath became like this. All of them can be entertained from different perspectives, but this is the one that is most relevant and heard from Guru Maharaj. That is Krishna, feeling separation. And he's stunned, he's unable to move. So what do I do? Put him on the chariot, take him to Vrindavan. So when the Rath Yatra pastimes are there, Mahaprabhu in the front, as Radharani, expressing all the things that she says, and Dwaraka Krishna, there's Krishna, and we're told, because he's actually there, he's astonished to see the dancing and singing of Mahaprabhu. You could say by himself in that capacity. I mean, Jagannath is astonished, so that the chariots, and he's watching this. It's amazing. So we told how that Mahaprabhu made his approach to Jagannath Puri after taking sannyas, and ended up in the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and everything. But how shall the devotees proceed? You know, and I've mentioned this before, but I think it bears repeating. But so when I was there in 1973, first 19, been to Vrindavan, Govardhan, and Navadvip, Mayapur, and thought, and now was on my way out of it. I thought, if I can see Jagannath Puri, that would be wonderful. And I was told by the more experienced devotees, they said never travel by third class unreserved. And I was saying, like, how bad could it be? And I could say, when I found I changed, like, all the phases of life were in the bogie. Birth, death, disease, old age, everything you can imagine was on full display there within one car. But when I went to Howrah Station, because I couldn't get, due to time shortage, a proper, a nice ticket, and so on, went to the train station. And there, but I saw this beautiful Vaishnava sannyasi who was a disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, namely Srila Bhakti Dayita Madhav Maharaj. And we heard later from Gurudev how handsome he was considered, because after one went to England unsuccessfully, he was under consideration. And it was told at the time, they said, the women of England are like apsaras, and they'll flock to this handsome, don't send him. So they, Guru Maharaj was considered, but because of his reclusive nature and other was not so. Goswami Maharaj was a householder at the time. But anyway, so Madhav Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Dayita Madhav Maharaj, and looking so angelic and wonderful. And so he's going there too, because I think he had the charge of the Purushottam Gaudiya Math, which is located in Chatak Parvat. So, Hare Krishna, Dhanyavad. So I saw him, Howrah Station, and so I just gave Shastanga Dhanyavads, which he liked, So, and he inquired for me something, and I said, I'm going, he's going, and I could understand who he was. It's my good fortune. Like Guru Maharaj says in Gurudev's Ashisha Sambhushitam, Guru Ganai Ashisha, to get the blessings of the Guru Varga. So he's in Guru Varga, and one of the most prominent disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So to just be bathed in his Vaishnava glance is our good fortune. And so then I went to the third class on reserve cart. He went towards the first class cart, and that journey took place. Made it to Puri, but without guidance. We know, like Mahaprabhu telling Jagadananda Pandit, when you go to Vrindavan, you have to be under the care of Sanatana Goswami. Don't mix with the local people. Don't be judgmental about them. Just always stay under the guidance of Sanatan. So you won't commit offenses, you won't get into trouble. I had no such asrai at the time. So I got into trouble. So, because I don't know, Puri, it's not obvious where everything is, like in Vrindavan. Vrindavan, you can just say, Madan Mohan, and people, or you go, Radha Damodar, and you can find your way around, pretty much. Puri, at the time, I didn't really even know what to ask, but I knew you're not supposed to enter the temple. That much we can say I knew. Like, you could not know that. But I somehow deceived myself into thinking that we're like, well, there's the temple, but there's so many side temples. Maybe you can go in on the little temples on the side, but just not the main temple where, So there's the eastern gate, the Singadwar, west, north, southern gate. Right? And we're in the Shringadev side. Anyway, Mahaprabhu would enter on the Shringa side many times. So I walked through there, just, casually, not trying to draw, but when you're as white as I am, you might as well be waving a white flag, I'm unqualified. And so, and rather unceremoniously, the policemen, the beloved policemen there, they don't just come up to you and go, oh, excuse me, you're not, like, they don't do that. They just picked me up and dragged me out and threw me in a gutter. An Indian gutter. Because there's some very nice gutters in California, in LA, in different places. This was not one of those. This was, with gunk and everything imaginable and unimaginable in that, and I was thrown into that. And that, of course, soiled all my clothing, everything, and I realize that I've done something very wrong, right? That I don't have the right mood here. And I'm getting a reaction for it. I think that I'm getting a reaction, such a severe reaction, was good, because it sort of brought me to my senses. But anyway, probably wallowing in self-pity, but trying to understand how the meaning of all of this. I'm on a rickshaw, making my way back to where I'm staying, And here comes the angelic, beautiful sannyasi, Madhav, he's coming the other way. And what I didn't realize at the time, he's on his way to the Purushottam Gaudiya Math at Chatak Parvat, the hill sand dune that Mahaprabhu takes to be Govardhan. So he sees me, and he can see I'm a mess, that I'm in trouble, and he, takes me into this little tulsi garden. And there he is. Jai Srila Bhakti, Dayita Madhav Maharaj. And he's, I'm saying those typical things that, like, why are we not whining? And he says to me that, says, Haridas Thakur, the Namacharya, he was not allowed. And he did not violate, And I went. And he said, Rupa Goswami was not allowed. He did not, And I was like, my head went low. He said, Sanatan Goswami Prabhu, the leader of the six Goswami, he was not allowed. He observed, yet and now my head was like I was crushed, humbled, humiliated, humble. And Dostoevsky says humiliation is the most intense sort of consciousness, self-conscious, self-awareness. Humiliation. That's when you're really self-conscious. So, but he wasn't doing this in a mean spirit. He was just trying to gently steer me toward, like, if Haridas Thakur, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatan, then might you? So then he said, for them, Mahaprabhu gave the Siddha bakul. This bakul tree, Siddha means it's like considered like an eternally liberated soul. Wasn't there a Siddha Chalta by Gurudev's veranda in Navadvip? So anyway, so bakul is but Siddha bakul, this particular, and you're saying like, who is that tree who beneath Haridas Thakur taking Krishna Nam, Sanatan Goswami from down there, Rupa Goswami writing his slokas. Hare Krishna. So, and from there, they could see the chakra, who we heard, Mahaprabhu, when he sees the chakra and the dwaja, the flag, he's seeing Krishna and all the higher love. That's what they're seeing. So, and Mahaprabhu, he observes the etiquette too. Remember, it's Jagannath's will. His servitors are descended from these Sabaras, right? Who were, in modern terms, basically hunter-gatherers, right? That's who Jagannath was happy to have as his. So that's his pleasure. Right? If that's his pleasure, then all the devotees are observing that. So he's saying, that's Siddha bakul. Then, I had a little diary, and he said, so that's where you will begin your parikrama. And from there, you will go to, Sweta Ganga, the place of Ganga Mata Goswamini, this beautiful, what do you call that? A pukur, or where the steps go down, tank, kunda, ghat. But it's extraordinary for those who have been, it has like, I don't know how many steps, and we're told that, that she was so devoted. She lived in Vrindavan, her name was Sachi previously, and she would give like Krishna Katha there, and that once the Sweta Ganga rose up and took her to the Singadwar, for the darshan of Jagannath. And then everyone realized this lady is completely divine, and she became known as Ganga Mata, Goswamini. So there, then above the house of Vasudev Sarvabhauma, and so he told me like how to do parikrama in Jagannath Puri. So, and we're told that Purushottam Gaudiya Math. Why Purushottam? Because another name of Puri is Purushottam Kshetra. Right? Purushottama basically means the supreme person. Purusha Uttama, the Uttama Purush. Right? It was Krishna. It's always Krishna. If you're waiting for the punchline, it's Krishna. The punchline is always Krishna. So Purushottam Kshetra, and we're told, so Mahaprabhu, he's staying in the Gambhira, and we must point out, the Gambhira means deep. Like Guru Maharaj, dive deep into reality. It's in that room where the diving into the deepest reality is taking place. On what? The vahni-garba, which Srila Gurudev called the firebed of separation. You see right there, in there, that picture of Mahaprabhu, when we brought the golden volcano, that's where they put it. And it looked like the golden volcano was Gauranga, and Gauranga was the golden volcano. Because the seva here was being changed. So Siddhanta Maharaj, who was in Puri at the time, sent a letter to Guru Maharaj saying it was possible a change was taking place. So Guru Maharaj sent me and his secretary to see if we could get it. And I just given him the golden volcano of divine love, like brought it to India, to Navadip, to his divine grace. And so he's telling us about that. And that's when he said that originally for Chaitanya Saraswat Math, or his final days, Uddhavakyari in Vrindavan, the place, again, of the Brahma Gita, we just mentioned. But Vrindavan's for the highest section of liberated souls, so then will settle ultimately upon Navadvip in the Aparad Bhanjanera pot, where he establishes Chaitanya Saraswat Math, having taken the blessings of Nityananda Prabhu and Eka Chakra and Nitai Bari. But he also considered here, what is it again? Uddhava Darshan, the Brahma Gita, behind closed doors, the Gambhira, yeah. And which he expresses beautifully in the Prema-dhama-deva-stotram, Sri Swarupa Raya Sangha Gambhirantya Lilanam Dwadashabda, I mean it's 12 years, Dwadashabda vahni-garba, the firebed of separation, Vipralamba Shilanam, Radhika Dirudha Baba, Kanti Krishna Kunjaram, Prema-dhama-deva-meva, Nomi Gaura Sundaram. What is it? Radhikadi Adirudha Bhav. I mean, it's the highest type of Mahabhav of Srimati Radharani, the Asta Sattvika Vikar. What are we told? These 8 different types of ecstatic symptoms that sometimes, and in one or two are activated. We're told that's called the smoking stage, like smoke before fire. There's some smoking, and they're able to suppress that. Right. Maintain some composure. But what are we told in the Bhagavatam about Krishna Bhakti? Yato bhaktir adhoksade sabai pungsang paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksade ahoy tukiya pratyata yayatma suprasidati. Ahoy tuki apratyata, Guru means irresistible. So the response of the devotees when something comes to them, they're not trying to augment that or amplify. They're trying to resist it, saying it's not real, I'm undeserving, I'm unqualified. They resist. If it's irresistible, then it may be the real thing. So 2, 3 symptoms, some level of resistance, composure, but then we're told when they're more pronounced, then it's the lighted stage. More pronounced, more symptoms, what is called blazing. Now the fire is blazing. And then I say, and when all 8 ecstatic symptoms, hair standing on the end, shivering, tears pouring, etc., when all these pulakashu, stamba, vaibarnya, etc., when all 8 are present and are being magnified hundreds and thousands of times, it's called, there's inflamed and intensely inflamed. So when he says, Radhikadi Rudha Bhavi Kanti Krishna Kunjaram, that's what Mahaprabhu is experiencing behind closed doors in the presence of Srup, and why it must be behind closed doors. Right? So, but even though the doors are closed, and there are no windows, and there's a devotee posted outside, sometimes they hear pathetic wailing, crying from within, Krishna Viraha, but sometimes it goes quiet. They don't hear anything, and they can think either Mahaprabhu is resting, or we're not sure. In that instance, they go and get Srup Damodar to check. And he comes, they open the doors, and although there are no windows and all the doors are bolted, sometimes they find he's not there. And that leads Srup Damodar, he leads a torch-lit search party, because it says, sometimes they go to the Singadwar, to the gate, and they'll find all his limbs have entered in his body. Looks like a giant golden pumpkin, because the head's gone inside like a tortoise, the arms, the legs. That's how they find Gauranga. There's nothing like this described anywhere. And then when he comes out of the transgression, the head comes out, the arms come out, and he resumes his form. We're told, what does it say? Bondeki, when he sees any forest, Bondeki, Vrindavan, he's seeing Vrindavan. When he sees the ocean, he sees the Jamuna, and he's jumping in. And it said, Shoila, Shoila means you can say stone, but in this case, the sand dunes, we're talking the Chatak Parvat. He sees Govardhan. Right? So he's running toward that. And then all the devotees running after him. Right? And so, and interestingly, you think about it, Gupta Govardhan, like in Navadip. So what is Chatak Parvat and Puri? It's Gupta Govardhan. That's where Saraswati Thakur establishes his temple. Anyway, they will find Mahaprabhu, whether in the submerged in the water for hours. Internally, he's in the Jamuna or on the banks of Jamuna with Radharani and Braja Gopis. But when he comes out, the fishermen catches him, they pull him out. You know? Or he's running towards the sand dunes, taking it to be Govardhan. And they find him, all of his limbs, we're told, these joints, I guess, they're separated by this much. So he's already very tall, over 2 meters. Now his body, again, these are not pretty images, but they point to like the intensity of what is being experienced internally and how it's affecting his divine form. So when they find him, he will say, when he was running towards the sand dune, like you see our Giriraj Govardhan, what verse is he singing? But from the Braja Gopis, how they praise Govardhan, because they praise Govardhan as Haridas Varja, the best of the servants of Hari, not as Krishna, and as we normally conceive, but Krishna in his servitor role. So Guru Maharaj says there's similarities between Giriraj Govardhan and Mahaprabhu, because he's internally Krishna and externally showing the form of a devotee. So he's chanting, Hantaya Madhya-labala Haridasa Bharja Yad Rama Krishna Charana Sparasha Pramoda Manam Tanoti Sahago Ganayas Tayoryat Pani Asuya Vasakanda Rakanda Mulai. So that's the gopis praising Govardhan, saying, oh, you're the best of the servants of Krishna. And you can imagine how much Krishna likes that, to hear that praise because he is Govardhan, but in this special capacity. And they're saying, and just look how you delight, Adula Haridasa Bharja, Yad Rama Krishna Charana Sparasha Pramoda. At the touch of the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, your hairs are standing on end. The puns, little puns on Govardhan, they're tears of prem. That's what the water is. Right? And then the cows are coming and drinking that water. So they're saying, that's delightful. Rama Krishna Charana Manam Tanoti Sahago Ganayas Tayoryat Pani Asuya Vasakand, and you have like pani, sweet water, sweet grass for the cows. And we told they always mention their part last. Pani Asuya Vasakanda Rakanda Mulai. And there's so many caves on Govardhan. They don't say more about that, but we hear elsewhere, Garga Sangita and other. These caves, they're illumined, they're elaborate, internally illumined by jewels. Radha and Krishna and the Braja Gopis have pastimes within these caves. So that comes at the end. They're offering this praise. So when the devotees come and discover Mahaprabhu and bring him back because he has internal consciousness, half internal, half external, and external. So he transitions back to external consciousness, meaning just conscious of the external world, not external, mundane. He's lamenting and saying, I was with Radha and Krishna and the Braja Gopis and Govardhan. And Radha and Krishna went into the cave for some pastimes, and the gopis gave me some service to do. And then you all made some noise. Kalahol. And Guru Maharaj, and it's similar to the other pastime from the rescued from the ocean. And so Guru Maharaj makes a very interesting point. He says that, what is this noise? Right? This chanting of Swarup Damodar, Lalita, all these great devotees, they're like, Hare Krishna, Hare, they're trying to bring him out, And he's saying, it was so beautiful, like he'll say elsewhere, he's saying, the sound of their ornaments was mind-stealing. So the most beautiful sound I ever heard was just the sound of the ornaments on their lotus feet, the sound that they make. And then you all made some noise. And then my happy dream broke, and what happened? Oh, now I'm lamenting. So Guru Maharaj is saying, so he's saying, this is the chanting of these beyond super Shuddha Bhaktas, right? And he's saying, that's noise compared to what the sounds within that plane. Remember, Yatha Ganam Natyagamanam Priya Saki Bangshi. Yeah. That all movement is dance, all speech is song. So that's one interpretation. But then Guru Maharaj, interestingly, gave just the opposite interpretation. And he said, or we can take it that Krishna Nam is so powerful that it was given preference over direct participation in Leela. You understand? He's directly participating in Leela. They chant Krishna Nam and it pulls him from that plane. He's saying, such is the power of Krishna Nam. Okay. So if you can hold these two concepts at the same time, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yes. Some things I'm saving for Madhusudan Maharaj because he's in transit right now, so he couldn't join us. And about our Mat and Puri and the Nitai Chaitanya deities, he knows extensively about those things. Can speak about it tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Hari Haraye Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hari Haraye Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Kesavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Prema-dhama-deva-stotram. Giridhari Gopinath Madhurya-rasa Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra. Garadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raguna. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhata Dasa Raguna. Echai Gochai Kori Chorana Bandhan. Jaha Hoite Vignanas Abhishta Puran. Echai Gochai Dharmui Tarodas. Kanzavada Padarenu Mora Panchagras. Kandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas. Janame Janame More Amiras. Echai Gochai Jabe Bajai Koilovas. Radha Krishna Nitya-lila Puri Lokadas. Anande Guru Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Sri Guru Vaisnava Pade Bhajayaman. Sri Guru Vaisnava Padma Koriyan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaura Hari Bo. Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaura Hari Bo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariraja Kacharya Satara Sada Shri Srimad Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Sundar Ju Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Deva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Govinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Jagannath Subhadra Balabhadra Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Shri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srilesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Brinda Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Bhimala Avadut Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj Ki Jai. Sannyasi Brinda Ki Jai. Sandeep Krishna Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Lalita Devi Nasi Ki Jai. Shri Maheshwari Didi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Pranay Sri Devi Dasi, doing Espanol translation. Kum Kum Didi Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Rupa Vilas Peru in the Philippines, Dandavat. Bhakti Sevan Rishikesh Maharaj, the traveling itinerant, the Paribrajaka Dandavat. The tongues Bhaktivinoda Ekadashi and Subhada, Dandavat. Vrinda Devi Dasi. Kalani Priya is your mom. Hare Krishna. Alina's mom in Moscow, Dandavat. Sri Hari Prabhu in Brazil, Dandavat. Govinda Nandini Didi in Moscow, Dandavat. Chaitanya Moyi in Rome, Dandavat. Brajalatika, Dandavat. And Orsk in Russia. Jivana Didi in Krasnodar, Dandavat. Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu in Vrindavan. Oh, and there is David with Sudevi and Chandrakanti. Hare Krishna. In Shenzhen and China. Dandavat. Sudevi very serious today. Hare Krishna. All right, not 100% there. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Paramananda Prabhu with Ramchandra and Pavan Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat. Damayanti Didi in Tomsk, Dandavat. Ananda Lila Didi in Brazil, Dandavat. Subhashini Didi in Ireland, Dandavat. Priyanana Didi and Lakta. Hare Krishna. I can't see who's also with her. Sevarupa Didi in South Africa, Dandavat. Ajita Krishna in Kiselni, Dandavat. Nalina, Nayana and Ram Sundar Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavat. Yeah, we're thinking of you. Kamala Didi, Dandavat. Tapananandini, Dandavat. In Mexico. Dharni Sundari and Abhazia, Dandavat. Madhavi Lata in Moldova, Dandavat. Uteshri Didi in Zaporizhia, Dandavat. Amya Sindhu Prabhu. I think where's he? Mayapur, Dandavat. Nityananda Ram in Colombia, Dandavat. Indumukhi and Mitravinda in China, Shenzhen, Dandavat. Sushmita Didi, she's in China also, Dandavat. Jai Srila Bhakti Ashray Dandi Maharaj, perhaps in Moldova, Dandavat. Where Pushkin was exiled, so he's in good company. Leela Shakti, Didi, Devidasi, Dandavat. Leela Sundar Prabhu in Ukraine, Dandavat. Radha Sundari, Dandavat. Parama Bhakti Didi in Brazil, Dandavat. Dhananjaya Prabhu, that's the other Dhananjaya in Russia. Rasananda in Ukraine, Dandavat. Gauranataraj Prabhu in Brazil. Sulakshana Didi is here doing Chinese translation. Nityananda Das is here doing Chinese translation. Prafula Krishna Prabhu in Brazil. Narayani, Nadia Devi Dasi, Shamala. This says Larry Williams in Govindaland. Ananta Shesh Prabhu in Spain. Ranga Devi Dasi. And what is this? Ananta Krishna, Dandavat. Julie from Kazakhstan, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Is that everyone? Yes? All right. Bancha kalpa tribhyascha kripa sindhu bevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. And see all of our devotees here. Okay, just follow whatever gave him. He's our director. Yeah, Mr. Pastor,